One of the biggest misconceptions, especially among first-time RV buyers, is the belief that RV dealers operate in similar ways as automotive dealers do. For example, let's say you bought your RV in California from dealer X, but you have a repair or a warranty issue on it while you're traveling. You pull into a dealer that carries your brand, and you assume that they're going to take care of you like they would if you bought a Ford or a Chevy or whatever. Make sense? Well, that is not the case with RVs. It is not, and it may never be. A man who understands the why about this and has thought about it for decades is here to help us understand why the automotive industry and the RV industry are not the same. He's up now, and I think every RV owner would benefit from listening.
The RV industry does not have franchise agreements. In the post-World War II days, see about all these old things I talk about? In the post-World War II days, there was a huge demand and not enough automobiles for the American public. The automobiles were in short supply, and the automobile dealers did very, very bad things to the consuming public. Of course, they weren't nearly as sophisticated as the modern chain RV dealer. They didn't have all these derivatives and imaginary services to sell, but they did take people to the cleaners.
Right.
Now, if you went to your Chevy or Ford or Dodge store and that dealer took advantage of you and really you found out later you were badly mauled, you hated that dealer, but you also hated Dodge or Ford or Chevy. Mm-hmm. And you vowed you would never for the rest of your life. And these are guys coming back from the World War. They're only 25 years old. They'll never do business with that company again. And they meant Ford or Dodge or GM. And they'll never do business with that bank that issued the loan. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they'll try not to do business with any bank ever that issues a loan. And they certainly wouldn't do business with that dealer. But the dealer didn't care. They were there to make a pile quick. And then they opened up another Dodge store in a different state. What that dealer did by destroying the brand value associated with GM, Ford, or Dodge was consume, devour, eat the goodwill that those manufacturers had built up over 60 years. And they resolved that we got to get this straight. You know, the dealers are making a ton of money right now, but there's going to be bad times, and they'll just go out of business and leave it hanging, and we'll be. The manufacturers were absorbing all the costs, and the dealers were ducking all responsibility. So they created franchise agreements, which were brand new in 1960. And they took a while to adopt, and there was a lot of working towards getting the franchise agreements just so. But the idea would be that you dealers, you want to sell our Chevrolets? Well, you have to understand what your responsibilities are and what our responsibilities are. And you have to agree to do that. And in those contracts, and the first ones, imagine they're collector's items, they're like 10 pages long. Now they're over 200. And they include many very specific. And there's always a fight. Like right now, the franchise agreements for the automakers, which include all the Asians and Europeans, maybe are a little bit too much in the favor of the manufacturers. But this is a pendulum that swings. It goes both ways. But everybody involved recognizes that by spelling out each responsibility, you can sort out disagreements without resorting to a court. I had this very good idea and had a model agreement drawn up that the RV manufacturer should adopt just such a protocol, that we had to have a franchise agreement. And I pointed out to the manufacturer in question has always been Forest River. I am loyal to Forest River totally, but it's because through experience, I've realized they're the only ones I can count on. And I thought I was getting traction, but in the 1990s, they said no. They said, we're not going to enter into a contract with the dealers. We're not going to give rights to the dealers. We're not going to take rights away from them. They were seeing that. They weren't saying that it was a miracle. It goes both ways. Because it will attract lawyers. I kid you not. That was the reason in the end that 25 years ago they said no to RV dealer franchise agreement. Now what have they got? It's kind of like an anthill, except that they're all lawyers and it's all over them all the time. And everything is a dispute. And then in each of the states have got their regulation. In each of the states, they've got regulations that say, well, you have to have a certain amount of facilities to be able to serve the customer when you sell them a sophisticated product like a motorhome or a folding camper. So you have to have these minimum requirements. And that part is, they call it an administrative law court. So it has an administrative law judge. You don't get a jury. You go in and you fight about it in front of an ALJ, administrative law judge, if there's a dispute. And the ALJ lives in his home state, and he doesn't have any reason at all to ever rule for that company that's in another state, does he? And so those rulings are always one-sided. And boy, I bet you they wish they had those franchise agreements today. I wish they did. An awful lot of the trouble we've had would not have happened. For example, in those franchise agreements, there are many clauses, but there is a clause about ethics. We call it the morals clause. If a baseball player signs a contract, he's got a morals clause so that he doesn't do something utterly disgusting, embarrassing the club, and ruining the value of the club. If we had that, the shenanigans that have been followed as a business plan by so many of the chain dealers would not be allowed. If they tried them, they would be first sanctioned financially, and then they would get the death penalty, cancellation. One of the few automobile death penalties happened just down the street from me 15 years ago, when a Chevy dealer that was one of the original Chevy dealers from the 1920s, but it had changed hands twice, was given the death penalty. General Motors took the Chevrolet franchise away from them. It was a big deal at the time. And it was because they were ripping their customers off. They were doing the kind of things that we've discussed RV chains do. And General Motors rightfully concluded under the franchise agreement that if they continued to do this, General Motors' reputation would be mud, not just, well, I'm not going to name the dealership because the former owner is innocent, but his name was still on the place when they got the death penalty.
But I want to bring a couple things up here. First off, as you and I can talk to her blue in the face, and we kind of have on some of these subjects about people getting their financial faces ripped off by these chain stores, yet there are still so many people, as I say, they just, they're like zombies. They just get hypnotized. They go right hypnotized into the dealership and they sign their life away. Why should those chain stores ever change the way that they do business when they've got an endless, I don't think it's endless, but it's seemingly for now, the stream of buyers that are willing to walk in and just give them their money and sign these long notes that they'll never pay off with banks that are over lending to these people and just burying the industry. Why should an industry or why should a manufacturer ever come up with franchise agreements when they're making so much money?
Well, I'll answer the last part first. Franchise agreements are probably impossible at this point. You can't enter into a contract unless both parties are contributing to that. And the status quo right now, if you change the status quo right now, the courts would hold that the manufacturer can't compel a franchise agreement. What we need is a really bad depression where every RV dealer goes out of business, and then every RV dealer gets a reset so that they have to give something up to get something back when they sign the franchise agreement. That's not going to happen. The industry association, the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association, is pushing for franchise agreements now. I don't know if they're going to get there, but it is possible that they could convince the various states to order that as part of the requirements to be a vehicle dealer, selling sophisticated vehicles that you must also have a contract. And they don't even have to call it a franchise agreement, a contract with the manufacturer specifying, outlining whose responsibilities are what. That's underway, but it's the bureaucracy. And we're not just talking about the RVIA bureaucracy. We're talking about the federal and state bureaucracy. So I don't know when that's going to happen. Now, if you're a believer in free markets, and I am, then what stops the chains from ripping people off is the wingman. You have to keep banging the gong and telling people. I can't tell you how many people come in here and say, now, the wingman told me to watch out for stuff like this. And I say, but you did it anyway. Well, I hadn't been watching the wingman when it happened.
Many of the emails that I receive are from people that they're licking their wounds. They were self-inflicted wounds. The information is out there. They're so hypnotized, intoxicated by the dream of buying an RV. The sales tactics are so sophisticated from these big mega chains. They absolutely couldn't resist the temptation. And then I get an email and they're $10,000 upside down, $20,000 upside down in their RV, and they don't know what to do. I can't help you. Enjoy it, make the payments, do the best you can. Don't give it back to the bank because it's going to take years and years and years to get your credit back. You've got to see situations like this.
It's really, really, really slow now, so I only see about one a day. There's nothing that can be done about this. You're right. I get depressed. I feel. We talk about how such loans could even have been done under current banking rules, because there's things about maximum advance and loan to value, and we can't even imagine how it could happen, but it does. You do know that across every segment of society, there is a well understood phrase that you can't fix stupid. We don't want to add injury to misery, but people have got to pay attention to what's being done to them.
Kevin is so right. He is. I wish he wasn't, but he is. People have got to begin paying attention to what's being done to them. From my standpoint, it is so frustrating because most of the mistakes RV buyers and owners make are avoidable. I've done my best. I have, and I'll continue to do my best to educate and inform and give some advice in hopes that more people will listen before buying an RV, the wrong RV from the wrong dealer, or entering some loan agreement that could ruin them for decades and turn them sour on RVing altogether. If you want to be a happy camper, you must become an informed camper, a smart camper, and find dealers and professionals that you can trust. That's what that's what this channel is all about, finding those dealers and telling you about them. Can you just imagine how awful it would be if the only choice you had as an RV owner is to take your RV to a mega chain dealership for repairs? Seriously, it's the smaller, honest, experienced, trustworthy dealers that are needed to keep this industry honest. At least I think it is. Well, I think we're going to leave it there for today. If you'd like to see more of Kevin Frazer and other RV dealers I trust, let me know in the comments below. Maybe if enough folks say more, we can get more opportunities to sit down together. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.